But let me just share with you why I think this is such an extraordinarily important initiative. I first got to be involved in this in 2017, and I even remember the date because it literally changed the way I think about nature, and of course I have been an activist at this for a long time myself. I was the head of UN Orchid, the special UN office that Secretary General Ban Ki-moon set up on Red Plus matters. And so I was not new to the matter or the issues surrounding the matter when I first met Vijay Kumar on 31st of July, 2017. So what has happened, and of course, what I saw was extraordinary at the first visit, and I have seen nothing that would make me change my views. It has actually further strengthened what I saw on day one, that it is extraordinary for three reasons. First is, of course, the environmental and public health gains are exponential. And then this is something that is replicable at a scale not imagined before. We have imagined possibilities for sure, but proof of concept is not proof of scale. Proof of scale is not proof of system scale adoption. So this is what excites me the most. The second is, of course, the scale of social mobilization. And it works in Andhra Pradesh, of course, because they have had a great history of mobilizing people through these women self-help groups, empowering people to realize their true potential. And then third is, of course, the kind of international partnership that has gathered around the idea. And of course, I am delighted that we are a part of this, both as the Sustainable India Finance Facility and now as the Global Alliance for a Sustainable Planet. Our team is embedded with the Raitu Sadhikar Sanstha in Andhra Pradesh, and they have been there from day one, and working alongside, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with the amazing colleagues at the RYSS. Now, I'm at Glasgow, and of course, as Ravi pointed out, a lot of people are lamenting about not enough resources going into adaptation. And then here is an opportunity that can actually change the paradigm. And literally, I'm not using hyperbole for the heck of it. It can actually change the paradigm. And let me explain. India currently spends about $13 billion in fertilizer subsidies. And these are government numbers I'm citing. Another roughly $17 billion in farm electricity subsidies, which primarily come from resource-strapped provincial governments, who could really do something much better with that money. And then add to that, interest subvention schemes, farm loan waivers, which comes with every political cycle. And then, of course, the crop development schemes for crops that are perhaps not suited to a certain area or have created the problem or taken it to a different level altogether in terms of water stress, in terms of loss of soil fertility, and one could just go on and on. So that's where the opportunity is. India actually roughly spends at this time about $42 to $43 billion in subsidies directly attributable to agriculture. And by 2030, they'll get to $50 billion. That's just projecting the numbers. If you look back the last 10 years, where they were and where they are, and given that there will be further loss of soil quality and moisture levels and also climate degradation, both in the microclimate and the macroclimate levels. So it'll get to about $50 billion. Now, looking at what Andhra Pradesh has done and the kind of money they need to build capacity to bring about community level transformation, then of course that aggregates to the level of the subdivisions and then the districts and then up to the state. And that's how they're so hopeful, because it is not perhaps, it is certainly the world's largest farmer to farmer extension program by a mile already. But when they get to 6 million, that creates an opportunity not just for the province. I mean, they are already seeing it. The evidence is staring us on our face. But I'm talking more about India. And that's what I talked about, planetary scale impacts, is that India has 120 million smallholder farmers who basically live from one crop cycle to another. Their entire resilience is a 6 months level resilience. It's not like they can withstand any major shocks for years. And so they are switching. So we need to take inspiration from these amazing women farmers of Andhra Pradesh for what they are doing. They're not talking about risk in roundabout ways. And if you really take risk for what it is, talking about science, it's probability times impact. And as the climate completely breaks down, it already is, imagine what the probability times impact will be for the smallholder farmers and the families that depend on them. But turn that argument around, and given that Vijay has really brought about cost reductions already. When we started having this conversation roughly 5 years ago, it was $360 to $400 per farmer for the capacity building and bringing them together and mobilizing the community costs for the government. Now it's dropped to about $200. So if you have 120 million farmers and you need $200 and you can add some more, that's about $25 billion for a system scale transformation across India. And here we're talking about exponential gains in public health, in fighting water scarcity, in improving soil health, and also a country that's a linchpin in terms of the democratic world. And so at every level of engagement and endeavor, we should be really stepping up to the plate. When the Prime Minister, actually he himself said it in 2019 at the UNCCD COP that was being hosted in Delhi, he said, we want to do zero budget natural farming. It's recorded. Please look it up. I didn't see really many world leaders step up and say, Mr. Prime Minister, this is fantastic. We want to support you to take this national. That's the level of engagement we need to muster up when countries like India stepping up to the plate and not keep talking solar and mitigation and emissions and all. That's not an argument that has won us the conversation in the last 30 years. We need to start talking adaptation, because adaptation is about people. It's about young people. It's about livelihoods. It's about ecosystems. And it's about helping countries without having to pay big amounts of money, because India will itself save $50 billion a year if it manages to do the switch. So it's cost neutral for India, but for that short journey over the next 10 to 15 years, we need to work with them. And that's what will change the whole scenario. That's what we'll all be proud as a paradigm shift, as something truly groundbreaking for the planet. I'll stop there, but I'm available.